Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Drew.
And on this episode, we're going to talk about Joss Whedon's Astonishing X-Men.
Whedon. H?
Huh?
There's an H, yeah.
Yeah.
Whedon.
Whedon. All right, we're back. So this is from 2004. We read one other X-Men thing a while ago, Wolverine and the X-Men by Jason Aaron. It was okay. X-Men is such a storied franchise, right? Mm-hmm. So we figured let's try more X-Men. And Joss Whedon, I love Joss Whedon. I love a lot of the stuff that he's done. I love his TV shows. His movies are pretty good.
I'm not big into his TV universe, but all the comics I've read by him, I was a big fan of.
Yeah. So this seemed like an obvious go-to. It's not as huge and daunting as Grant Morrison's X-Men. It's not as old school and heavy reading as Chris Claremont's X-Men. So, you know, this seems like a good second attempt.
Sure.
I'll preface this with I have read a lot of the Grant Morrison New X-Men that runs into this. Mm-hmm. So I probably had a little bit more back knowledge of what was going on, but...
Imagine that.
But not too much, really. So let's start off with general impressions, just so they know what they're getting themselves into.
Well, should we do the synopsis first, or do you want to do general impressions?
Yeah, what's the synopsis?
They're trying to cure the X. There's a cure.
It's the mutant cure thing.
Yeah.
It's how many... I feel like this is a constant thing, but I guarantee it's just because all the movies are about it.
Sure.
Right?
Which has been probably the bulk of it. I mean, I haven't seen all the X-Men movies, but I've certainly seen more movies than I have read trades of the X-Men.
I may have seen all the X-Men movies. I couldn't tell you for sure. I think I may have. The weird thing, I think wasn't it the second X-Men movie that was about the mutant cure, or was it the first one? I
think all of them.
But I mean, like, they were really totally...
No, I don't know.
Super duper about that.
The first three just kind of run together.
Right. The third one...
Nightcrawler was in the second one. I remember that.
That was good.
Yeah.
And the third one was just about them walking around in the forest, if I remember correctly. Then they fought on a bridge, and that was like the movie, which made no sense. But those came before this, which I was surprised when I looked it up, because I thought, oh, this is probably where they got that, because Joss Whedon wrote it. And... You know, it probably was around that time. It turns out that this was written afterwards, so I'm not certain what the point of this was. Really, it was kind of weird.
It could have been like some editorial oversight. Like, you know, we need to...
Can you do the thing that they did in the movies?
Yeah, can you do the thing that they did? But it's still... It felt like a cheap plot device just because of the oversaturation.
Yeah, it pains me to say it, but it wasn't really that good.
The trade as a whole?
Yeah.
I think I liked it better than Wolverine and the X-Men.
Okay. I think I did too.
I thought the art was noticeably worse.
Mm-hmm.
But storytelling-wise, I mean, given the shitty plot, I think he did an okay job with it. I enjoyed it better than any of the movies that I've seen.
Agreed. It does have Joss Whedon's charm in terms of like character development and also how they relate to one another. The dialogue is real snappy.
Yeah, the snappy dialogue is the thing that I really like. The one that stands out in my mind is when somebody's talking about how, you know, there aren't mobs of people trying to take down the Avengers or the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Like, why do we have this problem?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of sort of referential nods to our understanding of the X-Men, right? And sort of pop cultural understanding of the X-Men.
The position in the universe.
Yeah, and it kind of attacks that directly in a lot of places, which is pretty cool. But I suppose what I'm getting at is I see this all the time as the, you know, what are the top X-Men runs? It's like this, Grant Morrison, and Chris Claremont. And if this is up there that high, it makes me lose a lot of my faith in X-Men, because this is good, but it's not amazing. This is not like my pantheon of comic books.
Sure.
Placing it on that mantle. You know what I mean? It
took me a couple days to get through it, because it was like, well, I mean, it's entertaining, but it's whatever.
Yeah, it's an okay superhero book. So let's talk about it a little more deeply. Let's maybe talk about the characters or some of the things that happen in it.
Sure.
Minor spoiler alerts. To be honest, though, I don't remember enough specifics already. I mean, I only read it not very long ago.
Yeah, and it's already...
It really doesn't stick in your head very well. It's not, it...
Again, because it's shit we've seen like a million times. So how do you differentiate it from that other shit, you know, after a few days?
Yeah,
it bleeds together.
It just bleeds together into other things, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Kitty Pryde was in it. I thought that was cool. I enjoyed her character. I think Whedon writes a good Kitty Pryde.
Agreed. And I liked her. I liked Beast in this a lot. And I also liked that he brought Piotr back. Colossus. He's a very cool character. So to see him come back was interesting. But really, these characters are so sort of exactly what I expect them to be.
Well, let's talk about the main villain, because I think that's the main point.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did an excellent job with him. So this isn't a villain I've been familiar with. I don't know if he's... Yeah, okay, good. But he did an excellent job of making him, sort of intimidating and evil in some contexts, and then just sort of silly in others.
Or just almost a normal Joe kind of guy.
Right. Yeah. And he's got these like stupid ass problems he has to deal with, like anybody else.
Definitely. The villain in this reminds me of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer villain. Where on one hand he's very dark and evil and almost stereotypical, but then they always he would always round him out with these human characteristics and like the day-to-day requirements for like running a villainous organization,
Sure.
Like you have to be a monstrous guy, but you also have to figure out how to get food to the building. Like just dumb crap
Payroll
like that.
for your fucking goons or whatever.
Right. It's still it's necessary.
Right.
And there's a lot of clever little things in here about that, where he's a lot of little funny like arguments. I felt like where he was arguing with the people that he has to deal with. And sort of frustrated, that he's not being taken as seriously as he should be. I thought that was pretty funny.
He goes to their house and they're not there.
Right. There's some good humor. I think I think the humor is the only thing that kept me going through it, really.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah, if this didn't have humor in it, I would probably give it a 4 out of 10.
Right. It's a strange complaint to say that he writes all the characters so well that they're not even that interesting to read, just because they're X-Men. And I know like X-Men is so heavily ingrained. It's kind of like Snyder's Batman for me, where I already know really what all of the lead characters are kind of going to say to each other in response to one another, or how they're going to react to each thing. There's no surprises in here in that terms, and it kind of dulls the excitement of reading it for me.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think any of these characters really grow in any measurable way either.
Right.
It's very kind of black and white, which means superhero world, that's theoretically how it's supposed to be.
Right.
But I guess it's boring when you're around 30.
Yeah, it's very static. It's a very static story. There's an antagonist. They figure out the antagonist's plan, and then they kind of
Wolverine and Cyclops get in a fight, and you saw that coming.
Right, right. It's very by the numbers, in a Joss Whedon kind of way, though, where really most of the love and care that was put into this is, again, in the dialogue and like the little things underneath that it's hard for me to say it's great because of that, because it's so Whedon-y. It's very Whedon,
Well, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, I mean, again, we like Whedon,
right.
It's just that the only outstanding part of it happens to be the Whedonness.
Right.
There's nothing that he brings new to the table other than, his own particular voice, which is a great voice.
Right.
But it just doesn't go as far as, it really needs to round out the story.
Or to push the boundaries of the X-Men. Like, there's no boundary pushing here. And especially after Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, where, everything is constantly being pushed and changed and challenged. This kind of goes back and harkens to just a fun, story that,
Sure.
has a clear, front, middle, and end within the 6 issues.
Sure. The artwork came very close to like ruining any semblance of joy that I had in this book. It is just bad. Like Cyclops looks like a dick.
Yeah, well, I like
some kind of fucking little gimp creature.
Yeah, I like when they make Cyclops look like an asshole, but I mean, he literally just looks.
He looks like he's in a gimp suit. Like,
Yeah.
he really does.
Yeah,
Whose
like there's
fucking
something wrong with
decision
him.
was that? Yeah.
Right, and it's just it's so like shitty Jim Lee, like the dude's trying to ape that style, and I'm just not. I agree. I don't dig it at all. There's nothing exciting going on with the paneling. It doesn't detract or add anything. It's just there.
There's even a little bit where they're talking about Beast sort of devolving into like more animal and stuff. But I didn't really get that vibe from the art. I thought it was just a shitty drawn Beast.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then they mentioned it at one point, and I was like, oh, maybe that's why it looks like shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and it's just, it doesn't feel like there's much care taken. There's so many, every page almost has just like the gradient background. You know what I mean? It's just like yellow to orange from here to here, and then there's a guy standing in front of it. And the next page is like gray in the middle radiating out to red.
Right.
And that's that page. And
there's the only chances taken were with laziness.
Yeah,
basically.
It's almost like Cassidy was like, how little can I get away with drawing this and still tell the story?
You just copied and pasted like an old Wolverine.
And get my paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good. And it's from the worst era of digital coloring too. Early 2000s when it was first picking up, and I think that's where all those gradients come from. Sure. It really looks like cheap, like Photoshop gradient work, where they're just like autofill. You click the open space and then choose the gradient, enter, and then, okay, there's Wolverine. He's yellow with the gray gradient. It's just bad.
I guess it was kind of probably cutting edge-ish at the time.
Yeah, it probably looked really cool 12 years ago, but 13 years ago.
Stand the test of time. Which,
yeah.
Anything
else you want to say about this? We've only been in here about, 12, 14 minutes, something like that?
No.
Me neither. Who would you say should read this thing?
High school kid.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a good high school read. How about people whose understanding of X-Men is from the movies and the 92 cartoon? Do you think they would or would not like this? Because I know a lot of people, that's what they know about X-Men is those two things.
If they like those two things, yeah.
Probably, right? Yeah.
There's not really much to figure out other than that. No, there's no Professor X.
Yeah, which is a little off-putting for folks, I'm sure.
I don't care either way.
Yeah, who cares, right?
Yeah, you can have them or not, as long as you tell a good story. But
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up for us today. You can check back with us next week when we'll have more things to talk about. Gail Simone's Clean Room, I think, is one. You can click at this thing right here. It's right in between us. And then there's also these here that do other stuff. There's other videos and things, so do those. Of course, if you're on the podcast, you can't see that. It's too bad.